Next, protesters clashed with police during gay pride celebrations and bottles thrown at NYPD vehicles. What led to the standoff?
This is CBS2 News at 11.
Tonight at 11, a celebration of love and equality despite the Pride Parade being canceled. Thousands hit the streets in a show of unity, ending at the Stonewall Inn. A rash of gunfire across New York City with 17 shooting incidents yesterday alone. One NYPD commander says we haven't seen this kind of uptick in crime in more than 20 years. And people caught on camera throwing bottles and other objects at police cruisers. Tonight, we're learning what led up to these tense moments. Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jessica Moore. Today marks the 50th anniversary of the Pride Parade, but because of the pandemic, for the very first time, it was canceled. Instead, virtual celebrations and a unity march were held across the city, but it wasn't all peaceful. CBS 2's Hazel Sanchez reports from Greenwich Village.
Pride is still on parade here in Greenwich Village. As one person said to us, the Pride March may have been canceled, but the movement continues.
50 years after the first Pride Parade made its way through the city streets, a different group of marchers continued in the same spirit Sunday.
I had to come by and see this. This is like a really beautiful thing to see. People know that what's at risk, and they still come out anyway, and it's just very beautiful. I had to be a part of it.
While the official Pride Parade went virtual, the Reclaim Pride Coalition, an advocacy group for LGBTQ rights, held the Queer Liberation March for Black Lives and against police brutality. The group marched in solidarity with supporters of the Black Lives Matter movement from Foley Square to Washington Square Park, calling for police reform and to defund and disarm police.
There's also a very, very important intersection between the black community and the gay community, because there are black, gay, queer, and trans people out there in the world that need to hear their voice.
There was an altercation between police and protesters on the north side of Washington Square Park. Police say officers released pepper spray on a crowd after 3 individuals were allegedly caught spraying graffiti on squad cars. Witness Marty Cummings walked into the chaos and posted video of the aftermath.
It was so beautiful seeing queer people come together to uplift the Black Lives Matter movement and Black trans voices, and to come together in solidarity, and for the police to come in and be aggressive on what is a day of peace. It's so maddening. By
sundown, huge crowds gathered around the Stonewall Inn, where the gay rights movement began with the riots in 1969. The organizers encouraged social distancing. Many crowded together and were not wearing masks.
So many things happen for us that, yes, we deserve this moment. People are out here anyway. In rain, they're still out here. As you see, nothing stopped us. That spirit is still here.
Police say Sunday's events were mostly peaceful, only arresting those 3 alleged graffiti artists at the rally at Washington Square Park. In Greenwich Village, Hazel Sanchez, CBS 2 News.
Now to that spike in shootings across the city and some startling numbers from the NYPD. There have been 57 shooting incidents in the past week alone. 79 people were shot. So far this year, 503 shootings with 605 victims. And early this morning, more gunfire erupted in Brooklyn. A woman was shot in the head and a man hit several times at a party. CBS 2's Corey James is live in Greenpoint with more. Corey.
And Jessica, today's violence is just a continuation of what police saw yesterday, where there were 17 shooting incidents and about 24 people who were shot. The city's police chief says that the city has not seen this sort of violence in over 20 years. Across New York City, violence is still erupting, Sunday picking up right where Saturday left off in this Brooklyn neighborhood near Frost Street and Morgan Avenue. It's where a fight broke out at a large party and ended with 2 people getting shot. One of those victims in critical condition after getting shot in the head.
A lot of stuff that happens around here is a lot of just nonsense.
Dylan Varela tells CBS2 he has lived here for close to 20 years. He says he has noticed an increase in crime after a popular music venue opened up in the neighborhood.
With this whole club venue thing, this brings a lot of negative activity around here, because they go in there, they get drunk, you know, they do their own
thing inside there, and they come out here and cause a lot of commotion.
Hours later, more commotion unfolded in Harlem. Here you can see police trying to recover evidence from the scene near East 105th and 3rd Avenue. Authorities say a 27-year-old man was shot in the leg by 2 male suspects who were allegedly on city bikes. Then 20 minutes later, it was almost the same story in Queens. Police investigating another shooting that sent a 27-year-old man to the hospital with a gunshot wound to his leg.
We haven't seen this since 1996, this many, and there's a lot of different reasons for it.
New York Police Chief of Department Terrence Monahan addressed the rise in crime on a radio show. He said there are 1,200 people indicted for guns walking the streets and another 800 who have been arrested for guns that have not been indicted because court systems are not working. Monahan also said the death of George Floyd changed the perception of law enforcement.
It is a tough job for the police, and we're being told by community members, council members who have the loudest voice, that they don't want us interacting with people who are shooting off fireworks or drinking on the streets. The animosity towards police has just been absolutely unbelievable. And cops are, a little confused right now on what the communities want them to do, how they want their neighborhoods policed.
And Monahan says it is the department's responsibility to police the way that communities want them to. He also believes that the spike in shootings are the result of bail reform and inmates being released because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We're live at the 94th Precinct in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. Corey James, CBS 2 News.
All right, Corey, thank you. And you heard Monahan just talking about the ongoing tensions between police and some community members. That was visible early this morning in Harlem. The NYPD was called to possible shots fired, but they were met by objects launched at them in their vehicles. Now police are releasing cell phone video as they look for at least one suspect. CBS 2's Natalie Duddridge has more.
Police released new video and pictures of a man wanted for questioning who they believe threw a bottle at police cars, one of multiple people targeting marked police vehicles. Cell phone video shows a crowd hurling bottles and garbage at cop cars just before 4 a.m. Sunday at 133rd Street and Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard. Officers were responding to ShotSpotter technology that alerts police to possible gunshots. When they arrived, they recovered shell casings and 2 fired bullets at the scene amidst a huge crowd.
It's very scary at night, and I won't even come towards my window.
Cynthia Young was relieved to see officers trying to break up a group of about 500 people in the intersection. But some kept launching objects, damaging a windshield and driver window of a cruiser. You can see the police vehicles begin to back away, leading the Police Benevolent Association to take to Twitter to call out Mayor de Blasio and City Council Speaker Corey Johnson for, quote, using a light touch and saying they should be held responsible for surrendering our city. Retired NYPD Lieutenant Darren Porcher teaches criminal justice at Pace University. He says the city needs stronger leadership.
The antidote to this very contentious situation is a back-channel negotiation between police executives, elected officials, and community leaders. If those 3 entities are not willing to coalesce by a plausible strategy, then we're consistently going to see a higher level of crime.
We spoke to one woman who was in the crowd hours before it turned violent, who said it started as an afternoon block party.
It was a peaceful gathering last night. It is something that it needs to be looked at. It's not always when we get together, it is always depicted as if we are ready to kill one another. Last night was peaceful, although some other occurrence happened.
Police say there were no injuries to officers or people, and so far there have been no arrests, but the investigation here continues. In Harlem, Natalie Duddridge, CBS 2 News.
New tonight, an historic move in Mississippi. Legislators there voted to remove a controversial Confederate battle emblem from that state's flag. It was adopted in 1894. It is the last state's flag that included a Confederate symbol that many people condemn as racism. A commission will design a new flag, and voters will be asked to approve it in the November election. Demonstrators gathered at the American Museum of Natural History today, protesting the planned removal of the controversial Teddy Roosevelt statue.
Save our history! Save our history!
The rally, organized by the New York Young Republicans Club, also drew a counter-protest across the street of those in favor of removing the statue. Those who want the statue to stay believe it's not about racism, but preserving history. Others argue the statue symbolizes colonial expansion and racial discrimination. Last week, Mayor de Blasio said the bronze statue will be removed at the museum's request. More states are recording record high numbers of coronavirus cases over the past 24 hours, and that increase has Governor Cuomo concerned about the potential impact on New York.
I'm now afraid of the spread coming from other states because we are one country and people travel, and I'm afraid the infection rate in the other states will come back to New York and raise that rate again.
In Florida, there are 8,500 new confirmed cases since yesterday, setting another record after days of records being set last week. Bars have been ordered to reclose in 7 California counties. Vice President Pence visited hard-hit Texas today. He says the increase in cases has more to do with testing and not early reopenings. Happening tomorrow, indoor malls in New Jersey are set to reopen. Face masks will be required and all stores will be limited to 50% capacity. Also, New York Waterway will resume modified service on several routes tomorrow morning with safety measures in place. And alternate side parking regulations in the city will resume tomorrow, but with a big change. Residential streets will now only be cleaned once a week on the last day posted on street cleaning signs. Fire marshals seized $4,000 worth of fireworks in Manhattan today. 2 men, 24 and 46, were arrested. They were charged with reckless endangerment and the unlawful dealing of fireworks. There have been numerous complaints of illegal fireworks across the city in recent weeks. Well, the rain has moved out after some really strong storms earlier today. Vanessa Murdock is tracking our forecast. Vanessa.
Severe thunderstorms earlier today, in part due to the high heat and humidity. Now they're fizzling out and we're facing the work week. So what does the forecast hold? Details coming up.
Also had an emotional return for parishioners today. St. Patrick's Cathedral held a public in-person mass for the first time in months. And you're going to love this story. The show must go on despite the pandemic. A Broadway musical is held at a drive-in movie theater. We'll show you what it was like on opening night. Up next. For the first time since March, St. Patrick's Cathedral opened its doors for Sunday Mass in person. The reopening, as part of Phase 2, brought a sense of hope and comfort to a lot of New Yorkers. CBS 2's Christina Fan was there.
One by one, these emotional parishioners filed into St. Patrick's Cathedral for the first Sunday Mass since coronavirus hit New York City.
Delighted, absolutely delighted.
In a time of great turmoil, church providing these families with comfort and peace.
The first thing I did when I got into the church is tears came to my eyes.
Thanks, everybody, for all your patience and perseverance.
Cardinal Dolan welcomed back the congregation, addressing the challenges the community has faced in the last 3 months. Challenges McCarran Alvarez says she wouldn't have been able to overcome without her faith.
We have like a Zoom meeting every night, praying the rosary every night for all the people to take out this virus, this violence, everything that's happening in this world right now.
The church underwent a vigorous disinfecting and cleaning process before reopening. Attendance was limited to 25% capacity, but nobody was turned away. Signs instructed everyone to wear masks.
I'm very happy that the Mass has started again, and I'm looking forward for today.
St. Patrick's Cathedral says it will continue live streaming Mass, but for the parishioners we spoke to, they say coming in person gives them a greater sense of peace.
There's a saying that, you know, like when you go into church, you can just leave all of your worries at the front door.
A sacred place parishioners say they are happy to finally have back. In Midtown Manhattan, Christina Fan, CBS 2 News.
There was a small fireworks show tonight in celebration of NYC Pride. Fireworks lit up the sky over the Hudson River near downtown. Spectators were encouraged to follow social distancing guidelines. And the rain has moved out after a stormy day for many of us. We saw a beautiful rainstorm here actually outside the broadcast center. Vanessa Murdock joins us with a look at the forecast. Vanessa, we both share a love for thunderstorms, but it was really coming down at one point.
It was torrential, and the thunder could be heard within the building, but beyond those storms were some beautiful rainbows. A double rainbow, in fact, over New York City. Check out the photos given to us by our own Jan Kaner. He sent us glorious photos of those rainbows over Manhattan, and it just happens to coincide with Pride. So happy Pride. It was an on and off day with those storms. Moving forward, we can certainly expect more of the same this week. So let's talk about it. Give you a live look over the city right now. Skies are calm. Temperatures have fallen. Humidity levels, though, still sticky. 71 right now in Central Park. Winds are out of the northwest at 6. As far as high heat today, we had it. It was 90 degrees, 7 degrees above normal. The heat and humidity helped to fuel those severe thunderstorms this afternoon, which left behind some damage and also some notable hailstones. Port Jervis, New York, hail was as large as golf balls there. In Spring Valley, hail up to 1/4 of an inch, rather quarter-sized. And in Tarrytown, New York, there were trees down across I-87. So scattered damage across the region. Strongest storms this afternoon into early evening. Now this evening, we've settled on down. But we do expect several opportunities through the next several days for more storms. You can see the pattern here every day, an opportunity for more showers and thunderstorms. Tonight, though, you'll rest easy. Tomorrow morning, we'll start off with sticky conditions but bright skies. Clouds will build into the afternoon. Best bet for showers and storms tomorrow looks to be north and east of the city, and we will expect that trend to generally continue into late evening hours. Overnight Monday into Tuesday, things settle down yet again. Again, we're going to put this pattern on rinse and repeat. Increased clouds on Tuesday and more opportunity for showers and thunderstorms. All the while, temperatures stay at and above seasonable. Overnight, 70 degrees. It's mild night, 60s in the suburbs, even some 50s out there. Tomorrow, 88 degrees. Not quite as humid with those afternoon pop-ups. As they're hitting the beach, 80 to 85 degrees, a low to moderate risk of rip currents. And also note those water temperatures, 68 to 74. Next 7 days, as we reveal it, your work week, well, it is encompassed by a chance for storms every single day with highs in the mid and upper 80s and sticky situations. But as we move into the holiday weekend, it's looking like sunshine, not so stormy. Highs will be in the mid-80s then as well. Jessica, back to you.
All right, looks great. Thanks, Vanessa. The BET Awards aired for the first time tonight here on CBS2. We'll have a look at the big winners and the special tribute performances. And a sold-out Broadway show held way out in the country. See how actors and audiences are adjusting to the pandemic. Many of you saw the BET Awards right here on CBS2 tonight. The virtual award show was full of powerful performances reflecting on the fight for racial justice.
Fight the power. Fight the power. Fight the power.
That was part of the opening act. Big names joining together, performing the hip-hop classic Fight the Power with new lyrics added to reflect today's protests. Rapper DaBaby paid tribute to George Floyd and other victims of police brutality in his performance, which was a remix of his hit song Rockstar, one of many performances that recognized victims. This was the 20th anniversary of the award show. Of course, there are no shows on Broadway right now, but one New York City musical halted by the pandemic found a way to reawaken for 2 nights in Dutchess County at a drive-in movie theater. CBS2's Dave Carlin reports.
The creators of the musical Super You are riding a high. This is a long-awaited live audience cheering and honking. Opening night Saturday brought power ballads and rock anthems to the Four Brothers Drive-In movie theater in the small town of Amenia, New York. It's more than a 2-hour drive from Manhattan's Darrell Roth Theater, where Super U is supposed to be playing. The pandemic prevented that. But now,
this is really happening.
Super U creator and star Lords Lane and about 40 Broadway veterans, actors and crew members, dealt with some unfamiliar struggles here. As rain blew in shortly after rehearsals started,
The show must go on.
it mercifully lifted just before showtime. This sold-out crowd was a mix of Dutchess County locals and New York City theater fans.
The talent is crazy right here.
Traditional theaters like the ones on Broadway have a ways to go, so the future of live productions may depend on those who think outside the box. The earliest some Broadway shows might return is end of September. But retooled productions that can meet social distancing requirements can get people working again and bring increased profits to owners of alternative larger or outdoor venues, like this drive-in, where movies increasingly take a back seat.
Absolutely knocked it out of the park.
That's manager John Stephanopoulos, who says the drive-in is having a stronger than usual year.
There's comedy, graduations, weddings.
Lane says this is electrifying. She didn't pull the plug and fade away. She just found the right outlet. In Amenia, New York, Dave Carlin, CBS 2 News.
When the NBA returns, players will be sending a message through their uniforms. Steve Overmeyer will explain coming up next in sports. The NBA is preparing for a return next month, but with increased coronavirus concerns, some players are opting out. CBS 2's Steve Overmeyer has the latest in sports.
The NBA has always said that any player can opt out of playing in the Orlando bubble, and one Nets player is doing just that. Wilson Chandler has informed the Brooklyn Nets he's staying at home. Chandler, who's playing in his 12th season, cites staying with his family as the main reason why he won't be joining the team. Chandler is part of a growing list of players who will now take a reduced salary to opt out of the season. And when the league does restart in late July, numerous reports say the NBA will allow players to replace the names on the back of their jerseys with their own personal message. It might look a lot like what the English Premier League did with their players wearing jerseys that said Black Lives Matter on the back. The NBA has allowed this before. In 2014, they allowed the Nets and the Heat to use nicknames in a game. And even though baseball will be restarting their spring training in just a couple of days, COVID-19 remains a serious threat to the season. According to reports, outbreaks in a clubhouse could force the league to put the season on pause or worse. Rising totals in each city or even federal travel restrictions could also force the league to suspend games. They could have possibly have the option of suspending a team or even to cancel the season completely. I spoke with Daily News Mets beat writer Disha Thosar about the upcoming season's fragility. Do you actually see games being played or a full 60-game season being played?
I mean, it's definitely one of those things where I'll believe it when it happens. I'm personally not optimistic that this season will even kick off because there are so many clusters of outbreaks breaking out in camps before workouts have even begun. We've seen it work with the KBO and overseas. So there's slight hope there that it can also be implemented in MLB.
And the Travelers Championship wrapped up at the TPC River Highlands just outside of Hartford. Dustin Johnson changed his putter for the final round, and it worked. He overcame a 2-stroke deficit in the final round to win by 1. And that's a look at sports. Stay safe.
Coming up for us at 11, a retweet from President Trump is under fire tonight, how the White House is explaining it. And some businesses are adding what they're calling a COVID-19 surcharge. So what exactly does it cover and who has to pay? We'll explain after the break. Welcome back. I'm Jessica Moore. Tonight, President Trump faces new scrutiny on several fronts, including a retweet that appeared to promote white supremacy. CBS 2's Nicole Killian reports from the White House.
President Trump retweeted this video Sunday morning purporting to be a protest at the Villages retirement community in Florida when one man yelled out, "White power! White power!" The retweet drew instant condemnation and charges of racism from both sides of the aisle.
There's nothing much to be said. That is inappropriate, and it should be taken down.
A few hours later, the president did.
This is really not about the president taking it down. This is about the judgment of the president in putting it up.
The White House explained in a statement, President Trump is a big fan of the Villages. He did not hear the one statement made on the video. What he did see was tremendous enthusiasm from his many supporters. The incident comes as racial tensions flare around the country following the death of George Floyd, giving rise to the Black Lives Matter movement.
So you won't say Black Lives Matter?
John, I really believe that all lives matter.
The Trump administration is also pushing back on a report by the New York Times. It cites intelligence that Russia secretly offered bounties to Afghan militants to kill U.S. troops. The president tweeted, "Nobody briefed or told me, VP Pence, or Chief of Staff Mark Meadows about the so-called attacks on our troops in Afghanistan by Russians. Everybody is denying it, and there have not been many attacks on us."
To me, it looks like just another day at the office in the Trump White House. I've never recalled a circumstance where the president himself goes out of his way to say he wasn't briefed on something.
Former National Security Advisor John Bolton said the U.S. should consider severe measures if proven. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi demanded a report to Congress.
This is as bad as it gets, and yet the president will not confront the Russians on this score, denies being briefed. Whether he is or not, his administration knows.
The director of national intelligence also confirmed the president and vice president were never briefed. Russia and the Taliban have denied the reports. Nicole Killian, CBS News, the White House.
A call today to extend the nation's public health emergency declaration that is set to expire on July 25th. Senator Chuck Schumer says when that emergency declaration expires, New York would lose federal resources critical in the fight against coronavirus.
The bottom line is New York will lose all kinds of money. All the FEMA money that we get, over $1 billion, would stop coming. Money for our hospitals, money to help feed people, money for so many different things wouldn't come. And furthermore, the fight against COVID would be limited because what the CDC...
Senator Schumer says New York is not out of the woods yet with this pandemic. In fact, he's urging President Trump to instruct the Department of Health and Human Services to extend that emergency declaration. Well, if you've noticed a COVID-19 surcharge on a bill, you're not alone. This new fee is meant to cover added safety costs for businesses during the pandemic, but the surcharge is getting some mixed reviews. CBS2's Jenna DeAngelis has more.
Dr. Todd Burtman is back to work at his Greenwich Village dental office since the pandemic hit, using special tools.
We're using this to minimize aerosols and destroy bacteria.
And the necessary personal protective equipment.
Gowns, headgear, face shields, goggles.
He says PPE is hard to get and prices are inflated, so suiting up for each appointment.
It amounts to about $25 to $30 extra more just in PPE. Insurance companies may include it in their fees. They said they would. We'll see.
Either way, he says he's not charging patients extra, but this email from a different New York City dental office shows it's adding a $20 fee to help cover the increased cost of PPE. North Babylon resident William Broger says last month he got a similar note from his dentist.
There's no reason for a business like this that is already mandating it or already has that as part of their protocol to add the additional surcharge. So it kind of got me a little upset that they're just trying to make an extra couple of dollars.
Happy 2 weeks later, receive a second email.
It explains that due to the social media backlash, that they now have taken back the $15 per person surcharge.
We've reached out to several insurance companies. Aetna says it generally does not reimburse doctors and dentists for PPE. Empire Blue Cross Blue Shield says it's covering PPE fees for in-network dentists, but reminding dentists that they should not be billing members above what Empire reimburses. Surcharges aren't just popping up at the dentist. A Long Island waxing salon sent out this note. It may add a sanitation surcharge of up to $2 per visit. Does the customer have to pay this charge?
Yes, the customer does have to pay it, but at least it has to be disclosed in advance so they're not surprised by it.
Personal finance expert Jordan Goodman expects COVID surcharges, even at restaurants, to be the new norm.
I think it's actually not a bad thing to support the local businesses to have protective equipment, because the last thing we want to do is have this spread.
So next time you go out to eat, to a salon or a dentist appointment, it can't hurt to look for signage or ask if there'll be an extra COVID-related charge. On the west side of Manhattan, Jenna DeAngelis, CBS 2 News.
Well, we've all heard of FOMO, the fear of missing out, but have you ever heard of FOGO, the fear of going out? Recent studies show many Americans are now worried about re-entering society after months spent in isolation. CBS 2's Christine Johnson reports.
For the first time in months, the city's streets feel alive again. Many New Yorkers are emerging from quarantine, ready to take advantage of dining, shopping, and other outdoor experiences. But others, like Andrew Begwin, are a little more hesitant.
I'm more worried about people being relaxed about the situation and not taking it seriously.
He's not alone. Many people aren't just scared of going out, they're scared of going back to work. In fact, 2 out of 3 Americans polled by survey site Qualtrics say they feel uncomfortable returning to the office. And there are a variety of reasons: fear of getting sick, fear of exposing loved ones to the virus, or just general anxiety about returning to the hustle and bustle of everyday life.
This anxiety can be a first-time thing for people, and in fact, that's what I'm finding more is that somebody was emotionally healthy and are really being, struck down by this level of anxiety that's preventing them from getting back into the world, and they are still isolating.
Integrative psychologist Roseanne Kapana-Hodge calls it re-entry panic syndrome. It's a little more extreme than your typical stress or anxiety, but she does have some tips to make easing back into society a little easier.
The first thing people need to do is they need to find a place or an activity that they feel comfortable attempting to re-enter the world. They need to start small and get out for brief amounts of time.
Something as simple as taking a 10-minute walk can help mitigate fear. After all, Kapana-Hodge says anxiety sparks from fear of the unknown. Christine Johnson, CBS 2 News.
Still ahead for us, the return of the all-American road trip. More people expected to travel by vehicle this summer than ever before. We'll tell you how to prepare if you're planning one. Also,
as a lot of people look forward to pools opening, or maybe you go swimming in your own backyard, there are tips you need to know to save lives. We'll have them coming up.
when you park your car, this is not how you want to find it when you return. This sinkhole opened up on East 2nd Street in the East Village last night, nearly giving way entirely to that parked SUV. Police say the sinkhole is about 4 feet deep. Good news here, no one was hurt. Well, summer travel is looking a bit different this year. It'll likely be closer to home, so it's no wonder that road trips and RVs are seeing a spike in popularity. But before you go, you need to be prepared. Here's CBS 2's Dana Tyler.
The good old open road is calling once again. As parts of the country reopen and Americans itch to escape isolation, road trips seem to be top of mind.
I think as people look to have more control over their travels this summer, road tripping is an incredible opportunity. I think in the past, people have seen road trips as, absolute freedom. This year, I feel like it's providing people with the opposite opportunity in that they can control what they're traveling in, how clean it is, who they're with, where they're stopping.
Meredith Carey with Condé Nast Travelers says 42% of their readers would drive up to 6 hours from home for a road trip. The RV Industry Association says 46 million Americans plan to take an RV trip within the next 12 months. It's no surprise given the control you'll have over your surroundings, your safety, and your health. So, what should you know before you go?
You're going to need to be doing a lot more planning this year than you would have in the past because of those restrictions and added quarantines in Maine, New Mexico, even New York, depending on where you're coming from.
Carey recommends mapping your route in advance. That way you can familiarize yourself with each state's regulations, rest stops, and restrooms. If you're unsure where you can go, AAA has a COVID-19 travel restrictions map online. Condé Nast Traveler also has a list of the best road trip spots in America. But make sure prioritizing your safety comes first. Dana Tyler, CBS 2 News.
All right, it's time now for another check on our forecast. Vanessa Murdock is here now. Vanessa, some pretty heavy storms earlier today, and you were just saying that we could see at least some storms throughout this week. Is that right?
Yeah, every single day for the work week, we have storms in the forecast. Right now, we keep the holiday weekend dry, but it is summer, and things can certainly change. Let's go ahead and talk about it in a little more detail now. Live look outside across the city skyline. Glorious. Looks like the Empire State Building is lit up for Pride Month. As we take a look at those headlines, hot and humid days will persist on and on and on past the 4th. We do have an afternoon chance for storms every single day in the work week, and the holiday weekend, as I mentioned, looking pretty good right now. As far as today's heat goes, it was 90 degrees today, 7 degrees above normal, and we've had 2 90-plus degree days so far in 2020. By this time last year, there were none. And projections moving forward keep the forecast at or above normal in the temperature department. Here's a look at the short term. Tomorrow, a high of 88. Tuesday, 84. Slight decrease in humidity levels, but it's still going to be sticky. So as we look at our muggy meter, you'll be feeling it all the way through midweek and beyond. High heat, high humidity, and a crossing cold front sparked a lot of activity across the tri-state area this afternoon. Lots of severe weather, but as we make our way overnight, it is mild moonlight for us as this cold front continues its trek across the region. Tomorrow, not quite as humid, but I still think it feels a little sticky out there. And then as we make our way into Tuesday, we have another chance for more storms. That is the case tomorrow as well. Your 7-day forecast, 88 tomorrow with showers and storms possible afternoon and evening, especially north and east. For Tuesday is a high of 84 degrees. And I think Tuesday is a bit more cloudy with more persistent, dreary conditions. Wednesday, 83, chance for storms. Thursday, 86, chance for storms. On Friday, we're pushing 90, steamy storms likely. But then what happens for your weekend? Things are looking real fine. We're going to have 84 degrees Saturday and Sunday with mostly sunny skies to celebrate the holiday weekend and Independence Day. Jessica, back to you.
All right, looks great this weekend. Thanks, Vanessa. Well, many community pools have reopened, and families across the area are putting new pools in their own backyards. But along with the fun comes a lot of responsibility because of the potential danger. CBS2's Cindy Hsu explains.
With summer fun so restricted this year, a lot of backyard pools are popping up. East Chestertown Supervisor Anthony Calavita.
Normally we have maybe not even a half a dozen pool applications to our building department. Presently we have an excess of 40.
Calavita says pool owners should have a fence around the area and pool alarms.
They have floating alarms, they have movement-activated alarms. There are many different kinds, but we always encourage people to do that.
Now, as far as swimming and the coronavirus, the Centers for Disease Control says there is no evidence that the virus can spread person to person in pool water, and chlorine should also help kill the virus.
But social distancing in and around the pool is still important, although experts say there's no need to wear a face covering while in the water, and they advise swimmers not to share goggles, masks, or snorkels. The real key is designated supervision. Kim and Stu Leonard Jr.'s 21-month-old son drowned in a pool more than 30 years ago.
It's not a lack of supervision, it's a lapse of supervision. I assumed Stu was watching him. He assumed I was watching him. We let our guard down because there was all this family around.
The family's mission is to save children. They created a water safety book featuring Stewie the Duck that's in hands of children around the world. It teaches kids to take swim lessons, always swim with an adult, and wear a life vest. The Leonards say you really have to put down that phone.
Do not look at this when you're near the pool. This goes, keep it, lock it up somewhere.
Especially if you're the designated watcher. You got to have a designated water watcher.
It happens so fast.
And it's never too early to teach your child to swim. Cindy Hsu, CBS 2 News.
Great point. All right, thanks, Cindy. We'll be right back. Before we leave you tonight, a final check on our forecast. Vanessa Murdock joins us with what we can expect for the work week. Vanessa.
Well, a little less humid tomorrow. Still a chance for showers and storms. When you wake up, it's bright skies and 70. Winds out of the northeast at 5 to 10. Breaking down your day. As of 9 a.m., it's 76 degrees and bright. By noon, a few more clouds. We're up to 83. 3 o'clock, your high is 88. Feels closer to 90, and we'll likely start to see some showers and storms popping then, especially north and east of the city. Notice the numbers fall off into the mid-70s by 9, and we'll stay in the mid to upper 80s with a chance for storms through Friday. Jessica, back to you.
Another summer week. All right, Vanessa, thank you. And that's all the time we have for the news at 11. Thanks so much for having us in this weekend. I'm Jessica Moore. For the entire team, have a good night, have a great week, and stay safe.